perhaps during the following quarter. The name I go by is Jared Monroe. Denise Callahan, my supervisor, has said those 3 words to me more times than I care to count. I am 29 years old, and I have heard them more than I care to count. I worked at Wireline Consulting in Portland for 4 years, and each time I brought up the possibility of a raise, she came up with a new creative way to get around it. While I was sitting across from her in her corner office, I observed her as she flipped through budget reports that she had most likely not read. The harsh shadows that were projected on her face were caused by the fluorescent lights that shined above her. At the age of 41, she was impeccably dressed and had mastered the art of appearing busy while simultaneously uttering little of value. As she spoke, she continued to glance down at the papers without glancing up. The company's priorities have shifted. At this moment, we need to take a strategic approach to the adjustments to the remuneration. Whenever she wanted to say no, her go-to word was strategic. Over the course of 2 years, I had been managing the Peterson Industries account, and in just the previous year, I had brought in $3 million in revenue. I received performance reports that were flawless. In spite of the fact that I had a 96% client retention rate, I was never able to find any money in the budget for myself. "I understand," I answered, maintaining a steady tone in my voice. "Is it possible for us to establish a distinct timetable for when this might be revisited?" After a long moment, she eventually looked up, and her demeanor changed to one that was something between displeasure and hostility. "I want you, Jared, to take a step back and consider the wider picture here. Every one of us is making a sacrifice." I gave her a nod and then exited her office. I walked by the reception desk where Kelly was scheduling appointments, past the conference room where junior consultants were preparing presentations, and past my own cubicle, which contained a stack of client papers and a coffee cup that was only halfway full. I waited 5 minutes in the parking garage before starting the motor of my Honda Civic. I was sitting in the vehicle. The concrete walls gave the impression that they were getting closer. After 4 years of devoted devotion, I was still earning the same amount of money that I had when I first started. Although everything was going on, Denise had been promoted twice and received a corporate car. For the first time in years, I booted up my laptop that evening and updated my resume. I did this only to gain a better understanding of the current job market. I just wanted to bring to my attention the fact that there were other businesses that existed beyond these gray walls and rehashed excuses. Opportunities may be found on the employment boards in plenty. Opportunities for senior roles in companies that genuinely valued experience. Companies that promoted from within, rather than employing their boss's nephew for management posts, are referred to as in-house promotions. I saved a couple posts to my bookmarks, but I did not submit an application. Not at this time. Denise passed by my desk 3 days later and dropped a stack of reports without making eye contact. She did this without making eye contact. The file belonging to Peterson Industries was placed on top, and a yellow post-it note was placed on it. "Deal with the talks for the renewal. Ensure that they have a clear understanding of our value offer. The proposition of our value." Exactly. Mostly due to the fact that I was not worth an adjustment for the cost of living, but I was worth closing deals worth $1 million. The moment I picked up the phone to call Peterson Industries, I noticed that something was off about the situation. It was as if a switch had been depressed. I had not given much thought to Denise Callahan's approval for the past 4 years, but I found myself wondering what would happen if I simply stopped caring about her approval. As soon as I finished my graduate studies, I started working with Wireline Consulting. At that time, the company had a different feeling, lower in size and more intimate. Harrison Wireline, the company's creator, was still present and knew the names of everyone by the time he left. Following a session that lasted for 2 hours and focused on market analysis and strategic positioning, he had personally hired me out. "Instincts are something you have," he had told me. "When compared to spreadsheet formulas, this is more difficult to teach." The company was sold to a private equity firm 6 months later, and Harrison retired to his ranch in Montana after the transaction was finalized. The new ownership brought in new management, which included Denise Callahan, who had been hired from a rival company in order to modernize processes and improve efficiency. New management was brought in. During her first day on the job, she convened a meeting of all employees and discussed the need of managing human capital and appropriately sizing the firm. The fact that employees had become line items on a balance sheet was something I ought to have realized at that time. In the beginning, things weren't all that bad. I was given difficult homework by Denise, and I was able to complete them successfully. The moment I was given the opportunity to work for Peterson Industries, she smiled and told me that I had the potential to develop in my career. Back then, I was under the impression that advancement meant something other than simply putting in more hours for the same amount of income. I was taught by my parents to always keep my head down and to put in a lot of effort. My father worked at the same manufacturing factory in Ohio for 37 years, earning every promotion he received through his dogged determination and unwavering commitment. As Dad used to remark, businesses recognize and reward dedication. If you are able to persevere, they will take care of you. Veerline, on the other hand, was only concerned about the partners and not anyone else. I witnessed 3 skilled analysts departing for more advantageous chances, while Denise hired replacements who were less expensive and had recently graduated from college. The environment in the workplace went from being one of collaboration to one of competition. It became common practice for individuals to hoard information and stop exchanging ideas. Those cautionary indications have been present for a number of months. I was no longer permitted to participate in Denise's strategy sessions. Instead of delegating assignments to me, she would give them to newer employees, arguing that it was an opportunity for the team to acquire new skills. When I brought my issues to her attention, she would dismiss them by saying things like, "That's not your focus area," or "Let's stay in our lane." The previous month, I was able to overhear her discussing legacy employees who were opposed to change when she was participating on a conference call. The description was accurate, but I was not specifically named by name. After 4 years of experience, it seems that I have become a legacy. It appears that my resistance was a result of having brought in revenue for 4 years. The revival of Peterson Industries was valued $4 million over a period of 2 years. In the event that I was successful in closing it, Veerline would receive a well-deserved commission, and Denise would most likely receive an additional bonus. At the very least, I would receive a pat on the head and possibly a gift card to the office cafe. My roommate from college, Tyler, was employed at North Glen Analytics, which was located downtown. Last weekend, as they were drinking beers, he brought up their expansion plans and the fact that they are looking for experienced advisors. In a casual manner, he had stated that they are paying market rate in addition to equity participation, more specifically, actual equity, and not just employee stock purchase plans. Market rate. What an idea that is. I had done some research on North Glen Analytics on the internet that evening. There were mentions in their employee surveys of competitive salary, opportunities for professional development, and management that truly listened to employees' suggestions. It sounded like it was too good to be true, which most likely indicated that it was precisely what I were looking for. On a Tuesday morning in October, the transformation that brought about everything took place. When my phone rang with a number that I did not recognize, I was in the middle of reviewing quarterly estimates. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Marcus Weller from North Glen Analytics. I am going to give you a call, as suggested by Tyler Mitchell. My pulse quickened to a beat. Everyone in the Portland consulting community was familiar with the name Marcus Weller. He had established North Glen's clientele from the ground up and had earned a reputation for treating staff as if they were actual people rather than businesses that were merely profit centers. The conversation continued with Marcus saying, "I've been following your work with Peterson Industries. Impressive numbers of customers who remain loyal. Our strategic consulting branch is growing, and we are searching for someone with your particular background to join our team." I looked around the workplace for a moment. When Denise was in her conference room with glass walls, she was making a gesture at a slide that was being presented. Kelly was taking calls from a client who was upset because one of the younger consultants had botched their assignment. Kelly was fielding these calls. 3 weeks had passed since the last time anyone had bothered to fix the copier, which was jamming once more. While maintaining a low voice, I expressed my enthusiasm in acquiring additional knowledge. "How wonderful. Could we meet on Thursday at 2 o'clock? We may talk about the role as well as the remuneration system that we have. Rather than budgetary restrictions or company priorities, compensation structure is the focus. An honest conversation regarding the value of my contributions." Upon hanging up, I found myself sitting at my desk, experiencing a sensation that I hadn't felt in several months. Excitement is present. The understanding that I had value was not only about the option of leaving, but also about the possibility of leaving. It was meaningful to me that my expertise and talents were beneficial to someone. It was impossible to wait for Thursday to arrive. I informed Kelly that I had a doctor's appointment and arranged a day off for myself accordingly. Technically speaking, it wasn't a lie. My professional life required medical treatment. The North Glen Analytics office was the complete opposite of what Veerline used to be. In place of the swill that we had been drinking from vending machines for years, we were provided with contemporary furniture, natural lighting, and a conventional coffee maker. Marcus Weller personally greeted me in the lobby of the building. There is neither an assistant nor a human resources screening. A simple handshake and a sincere interest in what I had to say were all that was required. The duration of the interview was 2 hours. Strategy, client management, and market positioning were among topics that were explored. Marcus listened to my responses without checking his phone or looking at his watch, while he posed insightful questions about my approach to problem resolution. He also did not glance briefly at his watch. Last but not least, he mentioned that the post comes with a 30% raise in compensation, in addition to performance bonuses that are connected to actual revenue growth rather than arbitrary quarterly goals. 30%. Marcus Weller and I had a conversation in which he promised me more opportunities for job progression than Denise Callahan had supplied me with in the previous 4 years. I was in a state of haze as I drove back to Veerline. A drab concrete exterior reflected the gloomy October sky, giving the impression that the structure was smaller than it actually was. There had been no changes made inside. Still inoperable was the copy machine. Despite this, Kelly continued to receive complaints. The fact that Denise was still in her office suggests that she was probably trying new methods to decline requests from employees. Then, I had evolved. It was the first time since I started working at Veerline Consulting that I had a clear understanding of my exact value. Moreover, I was aware that Denise Callahan would not be willing to pay it. My sole concern was whether or not I possessed the bravery to do action in response to the situation. It was a typical October day in Portland because it was cloudy and raining when Monday morning arrived. I had spent the weekend contemplating Marcus Weller's offer, imagining several possibilities, and comparing my commitment to the organization against my need to maintain my own dignity. At the end of the day, on Sunday I had made up my mind. I had every intention of giving Denise one more opportunity. When I arrived at her office at 8 o'clock in the morning, she was already there, with a coffee cup in her hand, scrolling through her email with the expression of anger that she had been accustomed to. As I waited for her to glance up, I pounded on the doorframe of her apartment. "How may I be of assistance to you, Jared? For the purpose of discussing my remuneration package, I would want to schedule a meeting. Considering that it has been more than a year since my previous evaluation, I believe it is high time that we discuss my wage." After putting her coffee cup down, she leaned back in her chair and sat down. "Last month, I believed we had discussed this topic. There has been no change in the budget situation. Indeed, it has done so. Within the Portland area, I have been conducting research on the market prices for senior consultants. I am currently getting a salary that is 23% lower than the industry standard for someone with my level of expertise and professional history. I had completed all of my research, including printing out wage surveys, compiling data from 3 different sources, and even reaching out to former co-workers who had worked for other companies. In spite of Denise's preference to disregard them, the figures spoke for themselves. She remarked in a contemptuous manner that market rates are high. It is not viable for businesses to excessively pay for talent in order to attract it. It is more appealing to us to invest in long-term stability rather than to chase after arbitrary goals. For an extended period of time, an additional way of expressing their desire to underpay personnel who were too loyal to leave their positions. In the past 4 years, I have been responsible for generating over $12 million in revenue for this company, Denise. During the next 3 years, my pay will be covered solely by the Peterson Industries account. I am not requesting an act of charity. I would want to request that I be compensated fairly based on my performance." Her expression became more tough. "Jared, I am going to speak to you in an honest manner. This company has committed a large amount of resources to your professional growth, including training, mentoring, and possibilities for professional advancement. The return on that investment is not derived from compensation demands, but rather from continuing employment with the company. Demands for a salary, as if requesting compensation at market rates, represents some kind of hostile attempt to grab control of the company. With great caution, I stated that I am aware of the investment made by the corporation. However, the chances for advancement do not afford to pay off my education loans or cover my rent. It is imperative that I have a well-defined timetable for my growth, both in terms of the tasks and the income." Denise stood up and proceeded to the window where she looked out at the parking lot where my Honda Civic was parked next to her leased BMW. "What exactly is the issue that you are having, Jared? In your reasoning, you are not being strategic. Instead of concentrating on long-term career development, you are more concerned with short-term profits. In this context, what exactly does it mean to create a career over the long term? Because from where I am seated, it appears that we will continue to have the same conversations for another 4 years." When she turned around to face me again, her voice lowered to the tone that she used when dealing with more challenging customers. "It's possible that we need to reevaluate whether or not the culture of this organization is compatible with your expectations. Certain individuals flourish in settings that place a higher value on the accomplishments of the team than on individual acknowledgement. Others are in need of consistent validation and inspiration from outside sources." Clearly, the implication was made. I was being referred to as someone who was high maintenance and who lacked an understanding of the dynamics of the team. It was an example of a traditional management strategy. Create the impression that serious problems are character faults. My response was that I was not searching for validation. My goal is to receive remuneration that is commensurate with the contribution I have made to the development of this organization. In addition, I am informing you that this is not feasible at this time. If you find that to be unacceptable, then perhaps you should think about whether or not this is the appropriate fit for the career goals you have set for yourself. That was the case. The threat that is subtle, delivered with corporate courtesy, but evident determination, shape up or ship out, is the message that is delivered. She was attempting to call my bluff by wagering that I would not actually leave. It was my belief that I was too comfortable, too risk-averse, and too involved in maintaining the status quo to actually make a change. According to what I mentioned when standing up, I value your honesty. After hearing what you have to say, I will need some time to reflect on it. Just take as much time as you require. However, keep in mind, Jared, that opportunities of this nature are extremely uncommon. Try not to let your unreasonable aspirations prevent you from appreciating what you already possess. From the moment I left her office, I had the impression that I had been kicked out of the principal's office. I was not terminated, but I was made to feel humble and ungrateful, as if an individual's desire for fair compensation was a flaw in their character rather than a realistic expectation. The following afternoon, I called Marcus Weller and accepted the offer that he had made. Through email on Wednesday morning, the North Glen Analytics employment agreement was delivered to the company. After reading over the agreements, I came to the realization that I had been undervalued at Viralign to a significant degree. The boost in compensation was significant, but the benefits package was the one that truly opened my eyes to the possibilities. With no employee contribution required, full health coverage is provided. An annual budget of $5,000, reserved for professional development. Following a period of 6 months, equity participation will begin. Workplace practices that are adaptable. Attendance at a fee-based conference. The benefits in question were not groundbreaking. Rather, they were routine offerings made by businesses that genuinely desired to keep their employees. Due to the fact that I had become so acclimated to Viralign's bare minimum approach, I had forgotten what it meant to treat employees in an appropriate manner. Denise had normalized inadequacy by presenting fundamental advantages as aspirations that were excessively difficult to achieve. During the evening of that day, I signed the agreement and set the date of my beginning of employment for the following Monday. It was customary to provide a 2-week notice, but after Denise's response to my request for compensation, I had my doubts that she would make my leaving a happy experience. During the morning of Thursday, I composed the letter of resignation, a trained expert, brief in nature. In addition to expressing my appreciation for opportunities, I will also be proclaiming my intention to explore new challenges. I had it printed on the letterhead of the company. The irony lies in the fact that I was utilizing resources provided by Viralign in order to announce my departure from Viralign. On Friday morning, I had the intention of submitting the letter and starting the process of transitioning, but Denise was ahead of me and did it first. I'd appreciate it if you could come to my office, Jared. Over the intercom, Kelly's voice sounded in a manner that was remarkably formal. When the receptionist communicated in full words rather than in a casual manner, it was typically an indication that management was working on the situation. Considering that this would be more efficient, I decided to stroll to Denise's office, while carrying my letter of resignation. She was seated behind her desk, with a folder open in front of her, and she was wearing the expression that she reserved for when she had to convey unfavorable information to customers. Make sure the door is shut and take a seat. I took a seat, remaining with the letter of resignation in my hand. She began by saying, I've been thinking about our conversation from Monday, which was about your expectations regarding the direction this company is headed. In addition to that, I've been analyzing your recent actions, activity that has occurred recently. When I heard that phrase, my stomach dropped. I was on the phone with a colleague from North Glen Analytics yesterday, and they presented me with an intriguing call. It would appear that they have been taking applicants from our workforce. In particular, they indicated conducting an interview with a Viralign employee for the purpose of filling a senior consultancy post. My mouth became parched. Regardless of whether the conversation was intentional or unintentional, Denise was the recipient of the information that was communicated by someone attending North Glen. Despite the fact that her tone implied otherwise, she said, Now, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. However, she acknowledged that she believed it was necessary for us to have an honest debate about loyalty and professional conduct. The letter of resignation was placed on her desk by me. It is true that we do. First, she looked down at the page, and then she looked back up at me. How come this is? It is my letter of resignation. It will be 2 weeks from today when I start working at North Glen Analytics, where I have accepted a position. Within a short period of time, her face moved, through a number of different expressions: anger, surprise, and betrayal, followed by a chilly calculation of the situation. You conducted an interview with them when you were working here. On my own time and with my own resources, I was able to accomplish this. Following the fact that I made it clear to you that your expectations did not correspond with the ethos of our organization, you advised me to think about whether or not this was a good fit for the career goals I have set for myself. That is exactly what I did. Denise sat back in her chair and conducted her examination of me as if I were a conundrum that she was unable to answer. To say the least, Jared, this is quite disheartening. In spite of everything that we have put into your professional development, you are leaving that for what? A couple of $1,000s more on an annual basis. $3,000 or $4,000. However, she was prepared to decrease the figures regardless of the fact that she did not even know the exact statistics. Although it was largely about money, I stated that this is not about money. It is about working somewhere that recognizes employee development as an investment rather than an expense, and it is about being valued when you are employed there. On the other hand, do you believe that North Glen will be different? In your words, Jared, they are our direct competitors. It was expressly for the purpose of gaining access to our client information and their business strategies that they recruited you. That was the case. I was anticipating the accusation that was made. Espionage on behalf of a corporation that is disguised as career climbing. The claim is a severe one, I added, maintaining a steady tone through my voice. Are you implying that I intend to steal confidential information from the company? Denise's smile was slender and deliberate in appearance. I'm not making any recommendations here. To clarify, I am stating that the fact that you have chosen to work for a direct competitor raises serious issues regarding professional ethics and compliance with confidentiality standards. She was putting together a case. Instead of for legal action, it is for the purpose of character assassination. In the event that she was unable to prevent me from leaving, she would then make certain that my departure appeared as unprofessional as possible. I stated that the corporation has complete control over all of its information. I aim to follow that standard procedure, as it is the conventional practice. Nevertheless, I believe that it would be highly beneficial for everyone if we could speed up your departure. This is the final day of your contract. I was anticipating this. In order to prevent me from gathering information or exerting influence over other workers, Denise was not going to allow me to continue working for 2 more weeks. It was very important to her that I leave as soon as possible, before I could cause any harm to her. It is clear to me. You can count on me to return company property and clean out my desk. While you are packing your personal belongings, Kelly will watch over you. We have already taken the necessary steps to revoke your access to the company's systems, and your key card will be deleted at the conclusion of the workday. Typical procedure for employees who have been terminated. In spite of the fact that I had voluntarily resigned, my leaving was being handled by her as if it were a breach of security rather than a shift in my career. Even though I was getting ready to depart, Denise was not quite done. Jared, there is one more thing. For the purpose of discussing your employment history in this location, I will be personally contacting Marcus Weller. I want to make sure that he gets accurate information regarding your performance and conduct. With regard to professional references, since I believe that they are crucial, that was the case. This is a threat that is being presented as professional civility. There was a possibility that she would attempt to undermine my new role before it had even begun. I reminded you that it is your right to do so. I am certain that my work speaks effectively for itself. But we'll see. A quarter of an hour later, I was packing a cardboard box into my Honda Civic as Kelly was keeping a close eye on me. As a result of 4 years of career development, only a few personal objects were left. There was a coffee mug, a plant on my desk, a framed picture of my parents, and a stack of industry journals that I had purchased with my own savings. The remaining staff members observed the rite with a resignation that was all too familiar. Previous departures had provided them with an opportunity to witness this performance. Denise had prepared a theatrical performance of her resignation, replete with a security escort and an implied admission of wrongdoing. Something that I had not anticipated occurred to me as I was driving out of the parking garage. All right, specifically, it is not only about quitting Verline, it is also about having the decision made for me. By presenting my leaving as a betrayal rather than a commercial transaction, Denise had removed any opportunities for shame or second thoughts that could have been present. I called Marcus Weller that afternoon to provide him with an explanation of the issue. As a result of your resignation, she fired you? It was with a tone of real surprise that he inquired. In a technical sense, she accelerated the date of my departure. On the other hand, I was, in all actuality, terminated for providing notice. This is a very sad situation for her. In addition, we are fortunate. Could you begin on Monday rather than the following week? In a word, yes. That's good. Are you Jared? Denise Callahan dialed this number exactly 1 hour ago. The purpose of this conversation is to explore your concerns regarding professional conduct and performance. I informed her that we had carried out our own comprehensive examination and that we were confident in our decision to hire our candidate. Almost laughed out loud. Although Denise had moved quickly, Marcus had moved even more quickly. The fact that I had taken the right decision was demonstrated by the fact that her attempt to sabotage had been unsuccessful. I am grateful to you there. Thank you for the professional manner in which you handled a challenging circumstance. That reveals more about your personality to me than any reference call could ever hope to communicate. During the evening of Friday, I was sitting in my apartment and going through the employee handbook at Northglenn Analytics, detailed advantages, unambiguous criteria for advancement, and an open and honest method of evaluating performance. Anything and everything that Verline asserted to provide but never actually provided. There was a text message from Tyler that rang my phone. You are joining the team, according to what I've heard through the grapevine. We are pleased to welcome you to a firm that pays its employees what they are truly worth, their value in the market. When it comes to Denise Callahan's world, such a straightforward idea appears to be absolutely innovative. After I had been working at Northglenn Analytics for 6 weeks, Marcus Weller invited me to his office and presented me with an intriguing idea. Sliding a packet across his desk, he stated that Peterson Industries is considering making a change in the consulting firms that they work with. Evidently, the company they are currently using is not living up to their expectations. The client that I had managed for 2 years at Wireline, Peterson Industries, was worth $4 million. I had managed this account for 2 years. Marcus continued by saying that they had particularly requested you. It would appear that they were not pleased with the shift that took place after your departure. I opened the folder and discovered emails that were exchanged between the CEO of Peterson and the management of Wireline. The correspondence provided a clear picture of the situation. Deteriorating service quality, missing deadlines, and communication breakdowns are all problems occurring. Jennifer Walsh, a young consultant with 6 months of experience, was charged with handling the account that Denise had allocated to her. Can you tell me what kind of proposal they are looking for? A comprehensive strategic consulting package that includes market study, competitive positioning, and an assessment of operational efficiency. You will be responsible for all that you previously handled for them, in addition to expanding into digital transformation services. Over the course of 3 years, the contract offered a value of $6.8 million. Not only the Peterson Industries business, but also an enlarged partnership that would establish Northglen as their key strategic partner that would be beneficial to both parties. Marcus said that there was one other point of note. During their quarterly board meeting, they intend to make the announcement regarding the change in partnership. Make a public statement about selecting a consulting firm that places equal importance on the success of its clients and the growth of its employees, the achievement of client goals, and the growth of staff. The circumstances behind my departure from Wireline are directly referenced in this sentence. My next week was spent putting together the most detailed proposal I've ever written in my entire career. Metrics for success, market research, strategy frameworks, and implementation schedules are all important components. The entirety of the information that Peterson Industries required in order to set clear expectations for the outcomes and to explain their decision. The presentation meeting was set to take place on Thursday afternoon at the conference room located in the downtown area of Peterson. Natural lighting, unobstructed views of the river, and sufficient space for their 8-person leadership team are all features of this location. I was in the middle of delivering my presentation when Peterson's CEO interrupted me with a question that I had been anticipating. Please, Jared, assist us in comprehending the process of transitioning. What are some ways that we can transition from our present consultancy engagement to Northglen without impeding the progress of ongoing projects? Our expertise lies in ensuring a smooth transition, I responded. In order to guarantee continuity, we will work directly with Wireline, presuming that they are willing to cooperate in a professional manner. The chief executive officer smiled. Considering the current problems with the service, I highly doubt that cooperation will be their first priority. Yet, we are grateful for your diplomatic approach. Following a 2-hour discussion that was quite comprehensive, Peterson Industries finally signed the deal. With immediate effect, Northglen Analytics became their strategic consulting partner, ultimately taking the place of Wireline Consulting and expanding the scope of our collaboration beyond what I had been authorized to provide in my former position. Monday after Monday was the day that the announcement was made to the business sector in Portland. The press release that was produced by Peterson Industries lauded Northglen Analytics for their forward-thinking approach to strategic consulting, as well as their dedication to the success of their clients and their exceptional professional performance. The news was taken up by local business journals, which brought attention to the fact that Peterson's action marked the most significant consulting contract modification in the recent history of Portland. Particularly noteworthy is the fact that it positioned Northglen as a credible competitor to well-known companies such as Wireline. When Tyler came by my desk with a cup of coffee and a knowing smile, I was already in the process of analyzing the quarterly estimates. Not heard from anyone at your previous employer in recent times? Although not directly, Kelly reported in a text message that Denise has been occupied with meetings with senior management during the whole week. It's hard to fathom why. The loss of Peterson Industries had repercussions for Wireline that went beyond the impact on revenue. It communicated to other customers that the level of service provided by the company had deteriorated. Within the span of a month, 2 smaller accounts had also terminated their contracts, citing worries regarding the stability of account management. After that, Wireline made an announcement regarding the restructuring of their company and the implementation of cost reduction initiatives. As part of the strategic reorganization of leadership duties, Denise Callahan's job was deleted from the organization. The loss of her employment did not leave me feeling satisfied. Rather, it was a somber acknowledgement that acts had consequences. Both the development of her employees and her relationships with her clients were treated as if they were guaranteed. Both assumptions had turned out to be expensive. When my parents came to Portland in the spring of that year, they were pleased to find that I was succeeding in a position that recognized and appreciated my contributions. My dad inquired about the switch from Wireline as we were eating dinner together. I informed him that there are times when you have to take a step away from what is comfortable in order to find what is right. Having realized that loyalty works in both directions, he nodded his head. At the moment, I am responsible for managing Strategic alliances with clients who value knowledge and businesses that make investments in their individual employees. The idea is straightforward, but it appears to be worth fighting for. Learning certain lessons will cost more than learning others.